In this video, I'm going to make some cool synthwave music with this thing. And it's going to be freaking great! Behringer has been absolutely crushing it over the past year with their synth releases. You can see right behind me here that I have a Behringer Neutron and a Behringer Model D, and that there that I just showed you is the Behringer PRO-1. They have a whole bunch of other synths that they've announced that they're coming out with, and I'm sure they have even more that they haven't even announced that they're going to come out with. Well, anyways, let's dive into the PRO-1 because I think you're going to be very surprised with what it can pull off for only $300. Let's go. Alright, so this is the Behringer PRO-1, and I have a Rolly C-board block hooked up via Bluetooth, so there might be a little bit of lag when I'm playing, but I'm dealing with it too. So it's a pretty simple setup. It also allows me to do some pitch bends easily, and just a convenient way to record over here. So first of all, the Behringer, we do have two oscillators, so oscillator A and oscillator B, and then we have a mixer which also includes noise and an actual external sound source if you plug one into the synth. There's an LFO, there's a built-in sequencer and arpeggiator, which is a pretty nice addition. There's some mode knobs. Then we get into the filter ADSR, and volume, or VCA ADSR. Now up here we have kind of a mod matrix that lets you assign and control different kinds of modulation sources. And you have the master tuning, the volume, MIDI input, and some patch points up top. So it's pretty simple, standard synthesizer. If I turn down oscillator B, we just focus on oscillator A. This is a square wave. You can change the pulse. You can change it to saw. And you can actually blend the two. And of course we have an octave switch. And then of course the actual tuning for this oscillator. Now we'll switch to oscillator B. I'll turn down oscillator A. And this we actually have three different shapes. So we have the saw, we have a triangle, and we have a square. Same frequency and octave switching, pulse width. Then we have a low frequency knob. So if I click that, goes to this insanely low frequency. And this is useful because you can only go so low with regular MIDI, so eventually it just stops recognizing it. So if you want to go any lower than this, which is already pretty low, you need to go to the low frequency selection. So if for some reason you did a sub with a triangle wave, you actually probably can't even hear that, but if I go back to the square, you get basically another octave. I believe it's exactly one octave lower. Now if we jump up to the filter, I'll turn off some of these knobs. Of course you can just use the filter by itself. You have the control for the resonance, which, in my opinion, it cuts off too much low end. It's just the design of the filter and how it is, but this is what that sounds like. So it's a pretty substantial low end cut when you boost up that resonance. Now you have the envelope amount, which just controls how much the envelope is going to influence the filter. So, and I'll make this. I'll turn everything down for a sec. Just give the decay, well, and the release. then you also have a keyboard amount, which basically just changes the filter as you go up the keyboard so that you get the same kind of filtration as you change the range. Now let's play with the arpeggiator for a sec. This is a good time to show off the actual mode thing here. You can have it re-trigger the ADSRs if you have this re-trig knob on. Or you can have it not do that. And of course this also applies if you have the arpeggiator off. Then basically if you're doing legato, then the stuff won't trigger after the fact. I typically have this on re-trig mode. The sequencer is pretty neat because you can store two different sequences. If I set this to record mode, then I'll just jam something in. I don't know what I just did, but if I put this back to play, pretty easy way to get a nice jam going on the synth. Turn it off, go to seat 2, I'll go to record first. And play. First I thought this LFO clock that also controls the sequencer and the arpeggiator was just locked to this knob here, and I was mistaken because I forgot about this little patch bay you have up top, and I'm not sure if it'll work via MIDI clocking, but there is a dedicated gate clock input here that you can of course use. Right, and lastly, this mod matrix is a little bit confusing, so I'm going to shift my camera angle a little bit. Basically, I'll use this LFO section here and the oscillator B pulse width modulation. So this is just oscillator B. And I have this set to direct, and I have it set to direct on the pulse width B, and now if I turn this up, we're getting pulse width modulation via this LFO speed. Now I can also go to frequency, and since I have this set to direct, it's basically this LFO is controlling whatever I select this to here. So if I switch this to wheel, it's not doing the pitch anymore, but if I had a pitch wheel, it would activate that. Now, of course, I can enable oscillator A and select this to oscillator A pulse width. Now I have a beautiful dual oscillator pulse width modulation. After a lot of fiddling, we have some kind of kick drum that I can easily switch between these different waves. And I can change the length a little bit.